Ah, cacao, the drink of the gods, the pillar of ancient Aztec and Mayan societies. It was used as an indispensable part of their life. But this is not Central or South America. This is the Philippines. I've been coming back to the Philippines to get away from things ever since I've had things to get away from. It's an easy country to get used to. Friendly locals that speak English, history everywhere, evident by the traces of colonial legacy found in the landscape. Beautiful islands galore, around 7,000 of them. Luxury, nature, culture, it's got it all. But the food? I've always had a contentious relationship with this island nation's cuisine. I've come back to my favorite country in Southeast Asia. This time, I'm gonna get a new perspective on food culture in the Philippines. And to help me gain that perspective, I meet my good friend Chelle Gonzalez. Chelle's adopted the Philippine Islands as his home for the last 6 years. He's garnered a massive amount of attention as a chef, not because of his past in Spain, with resume bolstering stints at El Bulli, Mugaritz, and Arzak, but because of what he's doing at his own restaurant, Gallery by Chelle in Manila.
There's been fine dining in the Philippines, but would it be fair to say that you sort of brought fine dining paired with a deep dive into anthropology behind cuisine?
6 years ago, when we opened Gallery Bus, I think it was the first one that it was a restaurant at that level, making haute cuisine, innovation, and avant-garde in the landscape of restaurants in the Philippines. After 5 years, we decided to get deeper in what is happening in the country and try to understand Filipino culture, how are the diners, what is the future, what a restaurant should be. This is not just a work. This is not a normal job where you finish after 8 hours and you go home. This is our life. This is in what we truly believe, and this is, for me, my biggest dream, and something I learned in life is you can never stop to dream, is leave a legacy. How can we make food better? One of the biggest dreams that we have is now real, and is to have a test kitchen or kitchen lab where we can experiment, and we have a team who is focused in doing that. I don't know how to describe it, but right now it's like a magic force going on in the restaurant. It's it's like when you are in love. It's like it's true. It's something happening. The level of creativity, the level of researching and things that we are discovering is just it's like boom. It's like a Sputnik. It's something that I can feel. This is what I was dreaming for years, and now it's happening.
It's coming to fruition.
Now,
what is this magic ingredient that you've been researching?
One of them, I will say, is cacao.
Cacao in the Philippines. I want to see Chelle's philosophy in action, and I'm also deeply curious about what I just learned.
Philippines is one of the biggest producers of cacao in Southeast Asia.
I convinced Chelle to take a few days off to mutually learn about the ingredient he's focusing so much of his time on, cacao, the anthropology behind this Central American fruit, and how it came to be in the Philippines. Learn about the heirloom strains, the chocolate industry in general, and what Chelle plans to create for his upcoming chef's table. To understand cacao, we have to learn its story in the Philippine Islands. The plan is to head south to Davao, because cacao is grown commercially there. Davao is the capital of the Mindanao area, the southern fringe of this spread out country. Easy breezy and a more relaxed pace than Manila. I get into town and I immediately feel at home here. I head to a nearby farm where Chelle has arrived, and we're accompanied by his associate, Rob Crisostomo, a consummate chocolatier by trade.
I'll show you guys from the pods. So the one after the pods are harvested. So you've got them in different varietals. Wow. So they're inside these pods are basically what makes cacao. So I'll open one of these for you. See, so.
Oh, look at that.
You wanna try it?
It all begins with this, a taste of the cacao fruit.
So it's got these nice flavors of, citrus or sour notes.
Whoa.
You want?
Yes, please. This one's like lychee.
Different taste, right? Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So not many people know, there's even that variety of taste from different cacao species and varietals.
That is freaking amazing.
But it's super sweet. And it have, like lychee and also like some point of citrus. It's like a lemon, no?
Absolutely different. That's amazing. So these are two different strains then?
Yeah.
And the first one that we try also is different. So now, try to understand all of this in this stage. I think not too many people have it in that stage.
Yeah.
And it tastes nothing like chocolate, right? When you think of
At
cacao,
this
you
point,
think
this has
chocolate.
nothing to do with chocolate. It's like another universe.
Yeah.
So once you get these beans, so these what you call your wet beans, which are beans covered in mucilage. They're
That's what it's
harvested and
called,
collected.
mucilage.
It's called mucilage.
Yeah.
Have also yeast, no?
And so basically they're kept in these sacks, or they're collected. And after collecting this is basically what you need to ferment.
Gotcha.
Okay, and so after harvesting and collecting, they basically are put into these wooden boxes.
Whoa.
So this one has been sitting here for about 2 days, since Wednesday. Yeah. So you can feel it's also very hot.
Oh, that is warm.
Basically, so it's allowed to ferment for this one's been here for 2 days, and after 2 days, we mix the beans, make sure that it gets another,
in the bottom.
and the liquid drains down to the bottom.
So once it's done from those bags right there, it gets sun-dried, you said?
Yes, yeah, that's right. All of the varieties that we have in the Philippines come from South America and from Colombia and Bolivia.
The original varieties. So a lot of, if you go in the Philippines now, then these older varieties are very hard to find. You'll find a tree here, a tree in the backyard of somebody's place. And these were replaced in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s when a wave of plantations started to come in. And so they were bringing in varieties from the Amazon, Brazil, Malaysia. So the newer clones that had higher productivity. So it was moving more towards the commodities.
But the root of it came from South America.
Yeah, a long way back. In fact, the Philippines, not many people know, was that the Philippines was actually the first entry point of cacao into Asia. And this is because of our long-term history with the Spanish.
So we got two different varieties, what looks like. This is like bright and vibrant. That one's a little purple hue going on. What's the difference?
Well, for this one, it's basically unfermented beans. So the beans, when I say unfermented, they're basically after harvesting, they're just washed and they're basically sun-dried.
How long do they dry for?
About depending on the sun, but maybe about 5-7 days.
Okay.
Yeah, more
you can smell the pungent aroma. It smells like a drunk, sweaty guy almost, right? All right, so over there.
The beans on my left are fermented beans.
Okay.
So they've undergone the process of fermentation, and normally those are used for more premium chocolate. Whereas the ones here, if you notice, they're lighter color, and the farmers don't go through the fermentation process. And these are the beans that they normally use for their local native hot cacao drink.
Okay, fermented, premium chocolate. Unfermented, for tablea, made to use tsokolate, the drink.
Oh, what are we looking at, 60 kilos?
Feeling the zest and the spring in our step from the highly nutritious mucilage, we decide to try and move a bag by ourselves. Better not quit our day jobs.
So we are not the real farmers. We just want to be the
More respect.
All right, so I'm gonna grab it from the bottom.
Tres, dos, uno.
Woo! Job done. Look at that. It's huele, right? Huele bien?
Well, yeah, it smells very particular, no?
Yeah. Pretty much smells like a brewery.
It is, man. It is, you know, it really reminds me of Spain, you know, when you go to the wineries, all of this stage, you know, of fermentation.
Yeah.
But the most beautiful is living in the Philippines and be able to have this, you know,
Hands-on access.
hands-on, you know.
I love it, man.
I love it too.
This is a labor-intensive process in every step of the way. To get a better idea about what happens next, we head to the port of Davao, where the beans are meticulously sorted and then loaded up on ubiquitous shipping containers.
Basically, the main ingredient used in chocolate.
Of course.
And it's handled in this form as a commodity that's shipped around globally, mostly coming from the tropical belts, like the producing countries, like Africa, it's the #1 producer, and some countries like ourselves. And it gets shipped and handled like this and gets shipped to all these different countries that make them into chocolate.
And there's several grades of cacaos, right? This is like the lower tier.
Some beans are used for chocolate companies, and some of these beans, which are, say, a different grade, are mostly used for the usual cocoa butter and powders and stuff.
The Philippines is exporting cacao. You have cacao coming out of South America, Africa. How does that market compete with each other? Is the buyer going like, I want to prioritize South American cacao because it has the legacy? How does that work?
Well, now, with the advent of these specialty chocolate makers, similar to specialty single origin coffee, where people are consuming dark chocolate and they can actually taste the difference from country to country, then they're like, okay, I really like the taste profile of this country, and then they go after that supply chain.
Right.
And cacao was basically a bulk ingredient that was brought all over the place, so there was not this differentiation in, I really like that taste
Right.
profile,
Now
I
there
really
is.
like that story. Now there is. And so that's the big sort of shift in the cacao industry, wherein, of course, you still have these big chocolate companies, but there's a growing number of these artisanal chocolate craftsmen that are really trying to work with the farmers, really work with and perfect that fermentation and bring those really interesting flavors out. You know how the wine industry pays particular attention to, you know, fermentation, and you can differentiate from one vineyard to the next. There's really this very different taste, and it's only starting to happen now in the chocolate industry.
It's great to hear that cacao production is ramping up in Asia, and savvy consumers start demanding the bean-to-bar philosophy.
How much weight is this? 108 kilos?
No.
63.5 kilos. Oh, all that weight is supported just on his neck and his core. Can you imagine 63.5 kilos? That's like 135 pounds, maybe 140 pounds. Wow. These guys may look wiry, but you do not want to be wrestling with them. They're freaking strong. And they're going up that rickety ladder with 63.5 on their head. That's insanity. This is the reality that people don't get to see. You walk into a store, buy an expensive bar of chocolate, but this is the labor, the work, the blood, sweat, and tears literally that goes into making that chocolate happen.
The cacao tour continues, and it's amazing to gain this vantage point into an item I've consumed all my life, yet know so little about. Our next stop is a proper cacao farm, nestled away in a sequestered little nook with the dramatic backdrop of Mount Apo. The farm replete with beautiful, robust, and vibrant cacao pods.
The Aztec equated the cacao pod to the human heart, and you can kind of see why. It's got roughly the same size, shape, and color. And they also compared chocolate to human blood. Kind of a gruesome analogy, but the Aztecs did like them some sacrifices. It was something of very deep cultural significance to them. What's blowing my mind is the fact that this cacao pod made its way from Central America to Southeast Asia through the Spanish. That's just mind-boggling.
We've come here to catch up with some of the farmers whose livelihoods depend on cacao.
Nice to meet you. So it's important for people like Rob and Chelle, two different people in two different aspects of the chocolate trade, but what's important throughout is the relationship that they cultivate with the growers. That's a key aspect of the specialty chocolate trade, especially if you're going to capitalize on things like single origin trade. You have to go to the source, meet the people, let them know what they need to do to make it a better, higher grade product, and that's done in the field with the human interaction and the relationship.
I've tasted several varieties so far. Now, it's time to dig into what these varietals are and how they came to be.